This is a video on working with routines. I'm first going to show you that I made a place to put routines. So I'm going to say program. And right now I'm in subprogram 6 and I put a tab there, tab 99. I also put at the very beginning of this program, in the main program, a call to 699, and when it returns it'll exit if that's what happens. Alright, go back to execute. I'm going to go get a routine from the pause routines. I'm going to click on pause. Now here's a list of hundreds of routines. I'm just going to pick one and then we'll see what we can do with it. Here it says primary actions are box N and multiply list. So I'm going to click on that. Here it first shows what the routine does. I know it multiplies this matrix times this matrix to get this third matrix. Now I can hit the space bar because I'm in pause now, and it'll show me the instructions in that routine. Hit the space bar again and it goes back and runs it again. Well, now I'd like to put this into my program. I'm going to turn off pause, go to my program, and I'll go to number 6. Here is where I set up tab 99. That's what it's going to go to when the program starts. Well, I know that the routine that I looked at under pause is put in paste save lines below yellow line box here. And I know if I click that box, it's going to put that routine under this yellow line. So I'm going to click there. There it is. It pasted that routine, and here's where it multiplies list, M-U-L-L. Well, I'm going to hit execute, and it's going to run that routine. There it is, just like we saw it under the pause routines. Well, I know something else about this, and that is this yellow line is what controls real time. So if I execute this now and I click on RT, that's real time, it's going to put me right into that program. Notice here it says tab 99. And here it shows me the values that make up these matrices that are being multiplied. Matter of fact, here it says put a 1 at this position in list 60. So I'm going to change that and see what happens. What happens if I make that a 2? Oh, watch, the numbers change down here. I can make it back to a 1 again. Alright, change one of the other values. Here's one that's a 2. I'll change it to an 8. Notice it does all the multiplying for me. I'll change it back to a 2. So in real time, I can make changes to this routine's values and see what happens. I can learn all about multiplying one matrix times another. Alright, that's this particular routine. Turn RT off. We'll go back to pause again. Now we'll look for another one. Now I'm going to select another one. It says its primary things are .p, line, for, swap, and roll. I'm going to click on it. Oh, look, it makes lines bend up and down. Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to bring it into my program. So I turn pause off. I go to program. And look, I still have the yellow line up here right at tab 99. So if I say paste it, it's going to go down below there. Now you say, well, this other one's below it here, but look, there's an exit between them. So it's not going to run into that first one that we looked at. It's going to stay in this one. Well, now that I copied it in there, let me execute it. Well, there it is, just as we remembered it was when we looked at it in pause routines. Well, then I'm going to go, and I also know I can just go to RT right away. Why? Because the yellow highlighted line is right above this routine. So if I click on RT, that's where I'm going to be. Back to that tab 99. Well, now I see this one uses the roll action over 10. So it's counting by 10 one direction and then going 10 back the other direction. I think that's this up and down action. So if I go to that and I change that to 20, oh, look what happens. It goes down twice as far now. I'll change it back to 10. So what I'm showing you is that you can go get these routines. Like I say, there's hundreds of them. Make changes to them to see if it can do what you want to do. Let's see if there's something else. Now here's Q. We know that's a quill factor. That's how wide lines are to be. It says make the lines 20 pixels wide. What would happen if I changed that to 10? Oh, they won't touch each other anymore. Now they're spaced apart. That makes sense because they're not as wide. So I'll change it back to 20. Now, when you're in RT, you can go forward to other places. So I'm going to go forward. And here I see a loop for J of 0 to 14. Well, now we know that it does this loop 15 times because it didn't start at 1, it started at 0. So it did it 0 through 14, it's doing it 15 times. I think that's the down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up that we see down here. So I think if I change this to only 10 times, something's going to happen. Oh, it doesn't finish. Well, that makes sense. I told it only to do it to 10, so 4 of them are missing. So I'll go back to 14. Well, the same would be true if I changed where it starts at. Starts at 0. What if I told it to start at 4? All right, going to change that to a 4. Oh, well, we sure messed up the beginning of it. It didn't know how to begin it, and it didn't go all the way over because it started at 4. Okay, I'll change that back to 0. All right, so here we've done another routine. Went to RT and made changes to it to see what would happen. Going to turn RT off, and I'm going to go to pause again. Now I'm going to go to another one that I found down here. It says dots, POLD, POLF, that's polygon draw and fill, tick, which is the clock, the time, and PATS, which says go get a pattern. Alright, let me click on that one. Oh, it has a star. And it makes it bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it snaps back to where it was. Alright, I want to work with that one. I turn my pause off. I go to my program. Now it's still, my yellow line is still at this position where tab 99 is, so that's fine with me. That's where I want to paste it. So I say paste it there. But we know it stops here at this exit. It can't go past there. These are the previous ones, but it will stop at that exit. Alright, we got it there now. We're going to execute it. Well, there it is, just like we saw it. And we also know because that yellow line is on top of it, that's where RT is going to look. So I'm going to click on RT, and sure enough, there's tab 99. And here's the pattern it went and got. Well, I happen to know that pattern 25 is a 5-pointed star. So I'm thinking, well, what would happen if I would make that 28? So that's what I'm going to do, 28. Hey, now it's an 8-pointed star. Hey, I know something. I'll change it back to a 5-pointed star. Alright, now I see how big it gets. We see its rotation. Here I see its rotation says that it's not rotated at all. Here you see RS is 0. Well, what if I made that 120? 120. Ah, leaning over now. Well, I didn't want to make it leaning over. I'll put it back the way it was. And here it has a size. it says its size 100. Well, we know it's changing its size, so that value of S is changing somewhere over time. But if we would change that value of S to 200, the thing would get twice as big. So here you go. See, now it goes off the screen. Well, we'll change the size back to 100. All right, we're just experimenting with these. And here we see where it does change the size is S. T is what it did here with the tick. The tick is changing the size by modding the time. See, there's a clock that ticks 20 times a second. And this mods it with 48, meaning it gets a value from 0 to 47, 0 to 47, and that's what's changing the size here. And here that T then is used, it's added, see here, to that value of S, which we know now is 100. And that's why it's changing its size. Well, here we see what color it's set at, and there's the polyfill. And I suspect if we would go forward, we'll also see a polydraw. There it is, polydraw. That's what causes the outline. For instance, you see here it says change the color to black, change the Q to 6, that's how wide the outline is, and then do the polydraw. So it's doing a polydraw, the same shape as the polyfill, so it's like it's outlining it. Well, there's another thing we looked at. We got a routine and we played with it. Turn RT off. I'm going to go back to pause and find another one. This time I found one with morph in it. Morph is when things change. It morphs a pattern. I'm going to click on that one. Well, first I'll tell you its primary things are go to, polyfill, pats, which means it gets a pattern, morph, which means it changes a pattern into another pattern, and wrap, which means it's doing something over time. It's running up the wrap, running down the wrap. Okay, we're going to click on it. Ah, here it is. Well, this is it in the pause routines, but we want to go work on it ourselves. So, we know it put a copy of it into the paste. So, we'll undo that. And we're going to go to the program. And we're going to go here and tell it to paste it underneath our tab 99 because, see, that's the yellow highlighted line. So there it went. Now let's see if it's there. I'll say execute. And there it is. Now it's in our program. We can work on it. And we know that it's underneath the yellow highlighted line, and that's where RT goes. So I'm going to click on RT. Well, of course, there we are at tab 99. First thing it says is that the rotation is 0. Well, again, I'm just going to show you what rotation means. If I change that to 120, it's kind of leaning over. Well, we didn't want that thing to lean over. It looked better when it was not leaning at all. And here's one that says the size is 150. Well, if I change that to 250, well, that's pretty big. So I'll change it back to 150. Then it says it's tall and wide is 200, 200. Well, we could see what happens if we made it 300 wide. I didn't notice much of a change. 200 wide. All right, it's X and Y position. And here's that wrap command. That's what's making it change over time. And also, oh, and here's the pattern. Now, here it says pattern 1. I'm trying to remember. Well, we know the one pattern it's doing is an F. So pattern 1 must be this symbol, the fleur-de-lis. Well, let's go forward and see if the second thing is the F. I'm trying to remember what an ASCII F would look like. Pat 70. Yeah, I think an A is like 65. Well, if that pattern, oh boy, it would look funny changing it to an A, wouldn't it? Right now it's an F, so I guess an E is 69. So I'm going to put 69 in there. Yeah, look. Am I clever or what? I subtracted 1 from the pattern and now it morphs to an E. Well, that's morphing for you. Alright, well this is another example, I'll turn RT off, of getting a routine from the pause routines, of which there are hundreds, and putting it in your program, using RT, if you want, to make changes to it, to get it to do what you would like it to do. And you can make wholesale changes to it and see what you like. Alright, I'm going to say this is the end of the video on routines and how you can change them.